Hello, I'm live. The computer told me so. I'm live. What is happening? Hello. David, I like your hat. It is awesome. Thank you, David. David says, any of these guys outside the neighborhood? Perriman, Miles Sanders, Le'Veon Bell, DeAndre Washington. I mean, you have viable options. It feels like it would be dumb to go down with the DeAndre Washington ship to me. But of course, if he gets the kind of workload that he got 2 weeks ago, it could work. But I would say maybe he stands out. Washington stands out maybe a little bit. If you look at my running back ranks, I don't remember them exactly, but I have to believe Washington is third on that list. Probably Sanders is the highest on that list. Probably Perriman is like higher than the rest of them on the receiver list. But I think it's a fair consideration. Maybe Washington's the one guy where I go, boy, it would suck to like go down with the ship and have assumed that the Raiders were going to do something with their workload with their backup running back and then not have it happen. But I hope that helps. Hi, everybody. Hi. What's going on? How are you? Last one of these we're going to do for 2019. The YouTube channel will continue on in probably lesser fashion, but will definitely continue on. In fact, I know for sure that the two people who are most important to making this channel happen, well, I mean, you know, who make it happen, like after I conceive of what we're going to say, who then actually make it happen. The two Daves, Piper and Hewitt, are strategizing. I think they'll be having a phone call while we live stream. So they're crafting the future of the channel for the off season right now. So I already see a couple of questions for your championship weeks. By the way, congratulations for being in your championship week. One thing that you could do for me right here at the very, very, very beginning, I mean, I like it when you like this video. That's always fun. But actually, if you don't subscribe, there's like 47 people watching right now. It's not going to be a huge crowd today because, let's face it, fewer people are interested, the more people are eliminated. But it would be wonderful if you'd subscribe to the channel. Just click the little bell. If you're watching on mobile, I think if you close the chat part of it, you'll find the bell on the channel. Hit the subscribe. Boy, it makes a difference. It really helps us out if you'd subscribe. It helps us with SEO, basically, search engine optimization. So when people start searching for fantasy stuff, it will pop up. So please subscribe. Every single person watching, please subscribe. It really, really helps us. So I see a few questions about your championship weeks. We'll talk about the t-shirt in a little bit. And you're asking me, hey, I'm really confused. Should I start Devin Singletary, Adrian Peterson? And Seven of Spades asked that. And I could look up the ranks for you. I truly don't remember who I've ranked highest. It's got to be pretty close. So if you're asking a single position question for your championship game, the best way you're going to get my actual advice is to look at the ranks because I don't have them memorized. So if it's a single position question, running back, quarterback, wide receiver, I see one. Univ Poke says Anthony Miller or Will Fuller in a non-point per reception. I mean, I think I have Fuller higher, but there's an argument that says Anthony Miller's red hot. And if you look at the ranks at harrisfootball.com, just like start a separate little page while we're doing live streaming, you'll see my answer. And the reason I don't mean to be like sloughing off the answer is I really don't memorize my ranks. I spend hours on Tuesdays putting together ranks and then updating them all week. Way more hours than I can possibly memorize. I'm not going to memorize them. So if you look at the ranks, that's really where you're going to find the best information. John is here. And John said, the mixtape today was funny. Thanks, John. Your mixtapes are awesome, too. I think I'm sitting on one for you. I don't think I've looked at it yet because I'm running on fumes, but I appreciate you sending another one. I think it's a third one from John. Chewed Pen has a very good username, by the way, and says, one question, Boone? Question mark. So that's a question about Mike Boone, who is the potential starting running back for the Minnesota Vikings on Monday night. How we all wish it wasn't Monday night. So Dalvin Cook is telling reporters, I'm going to do everything I can do to prepare and let's go. I might be there. Like Adam Schefter's been told it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So we're not going to rank Dalvin Cook. The question is Alexander Madison. And of course, Madison is the one we've been handcuffing all year. He gets an ankle injury the week before Dalvin Cook gets hurt. And kind of screws that plan up. He's a better player than Mike Boone, but the feeling that I have about this situation is. Hopefully we'll get some clarity on Friday or maybe Saturday, because they're going to submit practice reports. I assume it's going to be Saturday afternoon when we're going to get some sense of whether Boone's injury allows him to play. We just don't know the extent of that injury. So my ranks at harrisfootball.com right now do have Madison playing, but let's just stipulate right now that is temporary. That is like, let's see if we can get more information. Coaches lie. Mike Zimmer really lies. And this could be the thing that makes or breaks our teams, like having to wait up for a Monday night game in which we're hoping Alexander Madison doesn't play. It seems like right now, with what we know, it's going to be hard to wait for Madison if he does play. I anticipate making a switch in the ranks, but I haven't made it yet because we just don't know. Like, these Wednesday and Thursday practices really don't matter at this time of year. Friday, and for the teams that play on Monday night, it's really Saturday practices. Those are the ones that we care about the most. Yeah, I mean, we're in C.J. Anderson land. We're in Damian Williams land of last year. Can we find the miraculous, DeAndre Washington might be one of them. Can we find the player who comes out of nowhere and suddenly scores 30 points and wins us our Super Bowl? And Boone has a chance to be that guy. If you watch the channel, and I know the channel exists because you're here, we did a Mike Boone video just on his one game of playing, and I think he's perfectly serviceable replacement type back. He's not a future star. He's a smaller guy who kind of runs like a bigger guy and is pretty direct and hits it hard. I think you kind of have to be that way to be a Mike Zimmer running back, and there's a chance he could be that guy, but boy, I'd feel better if we knew that Madison wasn't going to play. But it's a great question. It's like sort of the question of the weekend, really. RJ says, Will Fuller, yay or nay? I mean, it depends on who else you have. I'm, of course, not inside Will Fuller's leg. He obviously was able to play last week and made it through the game without getting re-injured. Of course, it's Will Fuller, so he can injure anything at any time. But I have him ranked. You can see where I'm ranked. I'm ranked pretty high, because there's lots of upside. But if by now you don't know who Will Fuller is, and the fact that he can certainly pork you, he can certainly make your team sad by doing nothing or getting hurt on the first play, obviously the huge risk, huge reward. Zach says, love my Yacht Possums shirt, as do I. Love mine, the Yacht Possums t-shirt. The people who only watch YouTube and don't listen to the podcast are like, what? What is that? Now, people who come to this live stream every week, the continuing story of the possum, and the fact that we now have these t-shirts actually are for sale at harrisfootball.com, believe it or not. You can also just get Harris Football merch. There's a few other t-shirts with Harris Football stuff, but the Yacht Possum is by far the most popular t-shirt that we sell because I'm insane, because the possum is a very important member of our team. And Zach says, 2 quarterbacks, I need upside. Trubisky, Allen, or Danny Dimes. Pick 2. So I'm not gonna do that because there are ranks. Unless the Allen you're talking about is Kyle Allen, in which case I can put you out of your misery. I'm going to assume not. Of that group, you'll see in my ranks that Josh Allen should play. And then if you're going to go between Trubisky and Daniel I mean, you'll see when I think I have Trubisky ranked. I think I have Jones not ranked, but you can look up the ranks yourself. You can find it. Let's see. Jordan did what probably should be done mostly at the beginning of these live streams. He said, Mr. Christopher Harris, what is going on? Yes, that is Mitch, of course. Let's see. Jeff says, Harris, please talk about the teams that are playing for nothing. Are you worried about Saquon, Mike Williams, or others? This is a common refrain. I mean, I've been doing this for way more than a decade now, and I get asked this question every year. And I know everybody wants there to be a rule, but there's unfortunately no rule. I can't tell you what teams are going to rest their guys or lack for motivation. Like, I just don't think professional athletes generally lack for motivation. We're really, really great as a culture after the fact, after the Giants get completely blown out by Washington, going, well, they lacked for motivation, right? Or and in that case, what motivation does Washington have, right? I mean, I guess we go, oh, the motivation is they want to tank so they get a better draft pick. Like, I just don't think pro athletes work that way. The organizations work that way. The Dolphins can certainly trade away all the players, right? But the players don't play less hard because they lack for motivation, because it doesn't mean anything, et cetera, et cetera. I just don't think that's a thing for players. Could teams pull players? Could they somehow change their play calling? Because now, like, I just think you're asking for trouble. I think you just play your guys. It's the same. I have the same people always want to tell me, what's your rules for weather? What's your rules for wind? What's your rules for end of the season? What's your rules for, we don't play week 17 because it's legit in week 17, especially for the good players on the good teams. They're going to sit, right? That's why we don't play fantasy week 17. But I don't think you can sit Saquon Barkley. I think it's a really bad idea. If he flops, and he's flopped a lot this year, if he flops, it's going to be because of his ankle and his team not being very good and Washington playing better on defense. I really, truly do not believe it's because he lacked for motivation and somehow maybe the Giants will rest him. He is hurt. Maybe they will. We don't know that. And there are way too many examples in history where people didn't get pulled when they had a long-term injury that they were playing with and kept playing and had a great game, right? I just don't think you want to get too cute. That's my opinion. It's your team. If you have a gut feeling, you should follow your gut feeling. Do the thing that's going to make you hate yourself least, but there's no chance in the world. I have Barkley in a championship game this week. There's no chance in the world I'm sitting Barkley. Lane says, assuming no Cook or Madison in standard league, Boone, Singletary, or Montgomery. All right, Lane. Well, it's a viable question because I haven't yet taken Madison out of the ranks, right? So you're going to see eventually where I put Boone, and the honest truth is I haven't figured that out yet. I will update the ranks on Harris Football all the way through and promise to put Boone in there. Like if I have a sense that Madison is like not in there, or like the problem is I don't know that we're going to get that definitive word in time for Sunday, but we might. And if we do, I promise I'll make the switch and you'll have, but like, what I think of Singletary or Montgomery by looking at harrisfootball.com. So let's the single position questions I'm just not going to answer anymore. All right. But this kind of question that Sean asks is a little more sort of like, I've looked at the ranks. I have to choose between Kirk Cousins and Ryan Fitzpatrick, at quarterback this week. You've got them back-to-back in your ranks. Would you qualify Fitz as the higher upside guy and Cousins as the safer guy? I don't know. I truly don't think there's that much difference between, like Cousins isn't all that safe. He's playing against the better defense. I don't think Green Bay's defense is awesome, but it's better than Cincinnati's probably, even with Cincinnati playing better. And Cousins himself is capable of the pooping on himself in the big spot. Of course he is, just like Fitzpatrick is always capable of throwing. I mean, I guess what I'd say is that, like, on average, probably maybe Fitzpatrick has the slightly lower floor. Is that a way of sort of rephrasing the idea that Cousins is safer? Maybe it makes me feel better because I never want to say Cousins was actually safe. Maybe that's fair. But Cousins has lots of upside. Cousins has the better receiving core if Adam Thielen's ready to go. Cousins has as good a playmaker as we think Devontae Parker is now. I don't know, maybe. I think Stephon Diggs is way better, and Cousins has lots of upside. I think it's close, and I think it's fine if you follow your gut. Let's see. Bruce says, do you have concerns for Amari Cooper with Dak's shoulder injury? I get it. I think this falls under the category of just play your studs is how I usually work it. There's a very clear pattern. So I've been doing this a long time. And as more and more people flock into wanting to cover the industry and make a name for themselves and differentiate themselves, there's more and more sort of let's take every piece of minutia that gets ejected by the NFL media industrial complex and try to turn that into fantasy advice. And the problem is that there's such an avalanche of it, there's such a swarm of it that it becomes noise. And is it possible that Dak's shoulder problem could be a legit constraining factor and the Cowboys just go out there and can't throw because Dak Dak takes one hit and he's done? There's a chance, but it's so there's go to RotoWorld. There's 100 similar type concerns and questions that they don't affect your team, but they affect someone's team. And so 99 of them, 98 of them aren't going to wind up being a factor. The guys are going to be fine, right? And there's going to be one where people are going to go, aren't you glad you paid attention to all that minutia that I gave you for week 16? And my problem is taken from a macro view. If I can recognize that all of this stuff is out there that people are kind of trying to turn into fantasy advice that really isn't actionable. And this is all a cousin of the training camp stuff that we get swarmed under by in August, right? We get a constant stream of that guy popped, that guy looks great, that guy's amazing. How can you not be loving Darwin Thompson? Mike Gesicki, are you kidding me? Maurice Harris is the man. And then Darren Waller hits, the one guy hits, and everybody goes, see, aren't you glad we paid attention I never would have had Darren Waller without it, would you? And the problem, of course, is that if you draft based on all of the training camp reports, which of the 100 did you wind up getting? If it was Darren Waller, awesome. If it was Maurice Harris, it didn't work out so well. Big regression, and it's not a bad question to ask the question at all, but that's sort of why I wanted to expound upon my answer, which is I can't worry about Dak Prescott's shoulder too much if I have Dak Prescott, let alone have Amari Cooper. I can't worry about the fact that team has a good cornerback, and will they get matched up on my guy? Oh my God, I probably need to sit him even though he's got 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns. There's too much almost it's like not all of it is bad information. All of it is actually information, but I just don't know that the one-to-one relationship ever gets strong enough that you can act on it. So long answer that I think applies to many, many things that we're all obsessing over as we're getting ready for our finals, which is don't overthink it. I probably should have just said don't overthink it, but it's a conversation worth having because we're responsible fantasy owners who check RotoWorld and check the newspapers and follow the beat reporters on Twitter, and we all want to know, oh my God, should I totally change what I've been doing based on all these minutia? And my answer generally is no, even though 1 out of 100 this week is probably going to screw the pooch. Eric says go Possums, and that really is the message of the day, I think, pretty clearly. Max says, I subscribed to the channel the day it launched. Well, Max, you know what? I appreciate you, my friend. I really do. Thank you. Karsten says, I have to deal with this too. I have the 2 leagues that I care about I'm in the finals of. And the question is, do you think Julian Edelman will be good to go? He didn't look very good last week. I will say it. He did not look very good. His leg looked like he was bothering him, and they didn't seem all that interested in throwing it to him. And they put him on the outside and sort of ran him as a decoy a bunch. I'm going to have a hard time sitting him. He's pretty much a wide receiver 1. Even in standard, he's pretty much a wide receiver 1. Touchdowns aren't always there, but the volume is usually so good. Is that one that could bite us? If you're in a 10-team league and you've got a lot of other kind of similar, pretty darn good options, I totally get it. So I'll say, one league, I don't have a choice. It's a deep league. I got Edelman. He's probably my wide receiver 2. I'm going to be playing 4 wide receivers. There's no question I'm playing him. I have another one where it's a 16-team league, but I have a good team in the finals. And I have some depth. And I'm going to have to, let's see about this Joe Mixon calf injury, but assuming Mixon's fine, then I'm going to have to choose between DJ Chark and Julian Edelman. That's a legit question, right? And if Chark were healthy and not coming off a game that he had missed, that decision might be made for me because I'm with you. He didn't look good. I don't know how I can get, I don't know how I can get all that excited about using Chark over Edelman. So Edelman's going to play. I don't think there's any question about that. It's just if we're going to get the same sort of stuff we got last week, it's going to be rough. But I just don't know. I don't know any more than you do. He's going to be out there. I would believe that. Let's see. Brushing Greatness asks a PPR flex question. Marlon Mack against the Panthers, a very, very sweet matchup against the Panthers, or A.J. Brown against the Saints. And my flex answers this time of year are really not all that definitive. They're much more about, hey, is this a legitimate comparison? Are these guys kind of in the same neighborhood? Because you know what you need in your lineup, and you know what players these are. You know what Marlon Mack is by this point. You know what the Carolina defense is like to run against. You recognize the upside that Mack has, but the fact the Colts have lost a bunch of games in a row and the quarterback's not playing very well, certainly risk factors with Mack that cause me not to rank him like I was ranking him in month 2 of the season. Similarly, A.J. Brown, I think real good chance he's facing Lattimore. That's not awesome, but it's never a reason to say, and that means he's hands off. It just means the Saints have a pretty good defense, and they have a corner who sometimes is pretty good and is going to be on him. And yet that he's red hot, and Corey Davis might not play. So I feel like it's a fair comparison. To me, it feels like, unless you really, I have real skepticism over Ryan Tannehill. I have real skepticism. I think A.J. Brown could be a really nice player. But I have, sort of a Michael Crabtree sort. of player, which maybe makes him not maybe a wide receiver 1 in his best case in the future when he's got a real quarterback, but like a really awesome, reliable wide receiver 2, maybe with some PPR wide receiver 1 tendencies, maybe sometime in the future. So I like A.J. Brown a lot. I'm just real skeptical of Ryan Tannehill. That all said, it would be tough for me to bet against that winning streak. Like Marlon Mack looks, I would be fine. They're in the same neighborhood. They're fine. Make a decision. But it's a tough winning streak to bet against. Brown has been red hot, so that could be the deciding point for me. Eric says, I smashed the like button, which 47 out of 130 people have done at this point, smashing the like button. Would you play Kenny Golladay or Miles Sanders? So is it a fair comparison? Is it sort of a fair neighborhood? Sure. And I think it would depend on what I felt else I needed. That's one where, Golladay is a tremendous player. If you watch this channel, you know I just did a top 10 wide receivers for 2020, and Golladay is firmly right in the middle of the top 10. I think he's a wide receiver 1 next year. Please give me Matthew Stafford. And I love Kenny Golladay as a player. But David Blau is awful and has a hard time going down the field, and that offense is stagnant with him. It's just natural. It's an undrafted rookie third-string quarterback. Like, it's what's going to happen. So Golladay has the touchdown upside. We saw it against the Bears. The next week we barely got a touchdown at the very end that didn't matter against the Vikings, and then last week we got nothing. So safer floor to go with Miles Sanders, and probably a little more ceiling to go with Golladay, and you know this because you've had them all year, so I'd say probably pick the one that fits what you need more. Let's keep it going here. Is Daisho says, hey Harris, who has the most upside among Juju, Christian Kirk, Kerryon Johnson, and Mike Boone? I'm playing against Lamar and Christian McCaffrey, and so I need upside. Probably the most upside would be Boone, provided we didn't get Madison. But I wouldn't think Kerryon. And then between Juju and Kirk, it's just tough to say Juju with the quarterback that they have. He has legit upside. Kirk probably has a little more legit upside. I would love to be able to say I knew Madison wasn't going to play, and then I'd play Boone, but you might have to go Kirk. Let's see. So Vince asked, what are my true thoughts on Golladay this week? I think I gave that's kind of my true thoughts, which are, he plays with a terrible quarterback right now. It's really tough to rely that you're going to get anything from him, but he's a really great player, and sometimes he makes a play, and they get in the position to throw him a touchdown, and you're psyched, or he breaks one loose, and he's part of the sadness right now. I will say that he's at the top part of the sadness for sure. I see a lot of single position questions, and I know we've got people who've kind of jumping in 20 minutes in. If you're asking a tight end question, if you're asking a wide receiver question, that's answered for you. While we're doing this, while I'm talking to you, just quickly go over with a new window, go to harrisfootball.com. You'll see my tight end ranks. You'll see my wide receiver ranks. I don't have them memorized. So it's much, much smarter for you to find it from the actual page that I spent hours making, as opposed to relying on my faulty Gen X, not boomer memory. So if you're asking a single specific question, I'm probably not going to answer it. Sam asks a question. If Dak is limited or out, does Gallup fall behind some other players in your ranking? Here's what I'll say about that. He'll fall if Dak is out. Dak's not going to be out. It's not going to happen. But here's what I promise you. I will update the ranks before you have to make that decision. Just bookmark if you don't, or remember harrisfootball.com. And I promise you, if Dak is ruled out, I will lower Gallup, I will lower Cooper, and you will see it on the page. As soon as that word comes out, I promise I will do it. Unless it happens, I'll be golfing Friday. If it happens like midday Friday, LA time, then maybe I won't. But quickly, soon thereafter, you'll have plenty of lead time. Ian says, Christopher Harris, it's me. Ian listens to the podcast because that's a Patrick Doherty shout out. There you go. Ryan says, you're the best dude, and gives me a fist bump. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. Brandon says, a keeper question. What happened to your view on Keenan Allen? I noticed he fell off your top 10 wide receivers for 2020. He did for the moment, but in the talking about my current number 10, who was DJ Moore, I said, listen, I don't really know how this is going to work out. I don't know who Carolina's quarterback's going to be. Keenan Allen could have been in this spot. Stephon Diggs could have been in this spot, and I mentioned a couple other guys too. Frankly, Jameis Winston stays in Tampa. Chris Godwin has much skeptical as I'm of Jameis, but if they're going to just roll the same offense back again, it's going to be hard not to put Chris Godwin, higher. So Allen is definitely in the mix, in consideration. Let's face it, I'm doing these ranks for fun at this point because we all are still together talking about fantasy, and once January comes, we'll all sort of be scattered. You'll be focused on other things. So it's kind of fun to just kind of, do it and then kind of forget about it. Phillip Rivers might not be there, right? There's a whole raft of stuff that might change. But I like the question, and really my response is Keenan Allen still really good. It's been a little bit of a disappointing season because there shouldn't be any reason why he shouldn't score more touchdowns, and that has he has done that. He has done that consistently. Found those fallow touchdown periods, and it's been frustrating. This year, in particularly frustrating because especially at the beginning of that touchdownless streak, he had a bunch of times he had a touchdown called back by penalty. I showed you on the YouTube channel. He had interference in the end zone like 3 different times. He certainly could have scored more touchdowns. I still really like him. I would imagine he's still in the wide receiver 1 consideration going forward. Roanen, I hope that's pronounced. I like this. Thanks for all your insights and hard work this season, Chris. I'm also facing Christian McCaffrey in the championship this week, so I hope you don't cash this week too. Yeah, if ever there's a DraftKings week that I'm like, I really hope I don't cash because I have Christian McCaffrey as my foe in both of my finals, which is why I am not favored in either of my finals, probably. I mean, I'm not talking about like the projected score, but just to look at the rosters when you realize, oh, Christian McCaffrey's like definitely getting 25 points here. So what else can I do? But yeah, I got 2 good teams. I got a chance, but I'm with you. It'd be great. I'm looking forward to that card doing nothing. Let's see. Jay Grubb, that's a good question. For a PPR flex, would you bench Thielen for Boone or Madison? I can't afford another Thielen dud. I mean, I think you have the perfect out, which is if they're both active and we really have just no greater sense that who's going to carry the mail. We just don't know. You've got the out is to use Thielen. I mean, I know that dud was terrible last week. I can't tell you any more about Thielen's leg. You know everything I know about what's going on with Thielen. Like, we don't know. But you've got the out because I think if Madison were declared inactive, I think it would be pretty easy to say, let's take the Thielen risk out of it and just go with Boone. And of course, smash cut to Amir Abdullah going for 300 yards and 8 touchdowns. Probably, but I think that would be your out there. I actually sort of like that as a possibility. Enrique, another DeAndre Washington question, but you probably weren't here for the first one, and probably other people weren't either. DeAndre Washington, like just your thoughts on him. Can he repeat what he did 2 weeks ago? The fact is, I don't know any more than you do. On the podcast all the time, I always say you can't legislate usage. I just don't know what the usage is going to be for backup players. It was a little alarming last week in a good spot against Jacksonville that, when Josh Jacobs did play for the Raiders at running back, that Jalen Richard was the third down back and the reserve, whatever. DeAndre Washington basically didn't play on offense. That's not great. Now, can we convince ourselves? No, don't worry. That's because Jalen Richard always sticks as the third down back, and whoever the other guy is between Jacobs and DeAndre Washington, he's the lead back. I mean, sure, we like you said, 2 weeks ago we saw that as a methodology. That's how I ranked them basically that way. I put Washington way ahead of Richard. I didn't put Washington as high as I had him last week because the Chargers aren't before Jacobs was going to play. I had Washington higher than I have him this week because Jacksonville's a better matchup, right, than the Chargers. Also, though, there's some percent risk that the Raiders don't go back to the same workload that they did with 2 weeks ago. I have no idea. I don't know any better than you do. Anyone who tells you they do is full of crap. They don't know. No, we don't know what they're going to do. I rank them as though I expect something like a workload repeat of 2 weeks ago, but with a little bit of a hedge based on worse opponent to run against, and some worry of what it looked like last week. That's the best I can do. So Matthew said, wide receiver question. Tell me, who should I start? That was the wide receiver. Matthew, just go to the webpage. harrisfootball.com. Just go to the webpage. Chris says, playing for my first championship. Thanks for your work so far this season, Chris. I don't want the credit. You're not giving me the credit, and that's fine. You should take the credit because I don't want the blame. But you're welcome, and congratulations, and let's go get it. Eric says, when you say play your studs, would Dak constitute a stud this year if you had other viable options? I mean, Dak does qualify as a stud this year. He's not in the top 5 among fantasy quarterbacks for nothing. He is. Is he still the yardage leader? I think he still is. The pass yardage leader? Maybe not. They didn't pass for much last week, but he's close. I mean, he is qualified as a fantasy stud this year. It depends on your other viable options. Here's what I'll say about all of this stuff. I do not know what's going to happen. All we're trying to do is play poker here, right? We're all looking at our cards. And we all go, all right, I know what I'm supposed to do when I have this hand. And when the betting has come around to me at this spot and that person is raised and that person hasn't, I'm going to try to maximize my percent chance of making the right call. But there's a great chance that dude's sitting on Cowboys and I'm screwed, right? There's simply stuff that's totally out of our control. To my way of thinking, the right way to play it is to play Dak Prescott. But that doesn't mean that doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have a good feeling that I think that guy's got kings. I don't think I'm out. I don't want to play. I don't want to raise. I don't want to bet. I don't want to whatever, right? Sometimes that's what a good card player is to go, I just have a feeling. And it's your lineup, and if you just have a feeling, you can look at my ranks and you can see how close I have your other quarterback options to Dak Prescott, and you can decide. It really has to be up to you. What I'm trying to tell you is that more often than not, this is nothing. More often than not, this is a bunch of media hype. More often than not, the quarterback Tom Brady's been questionable every game this season, and Tom Brady hasn't played well, but it's not been because of injury. So yeah, that's all I can say. I don't know what's going to happen, nor do you, nor does anybody. Let's see what we got next. Eric says, assuming Jordan Howard sits again, which at this point, boy, feels like he sure is, would Boston Scott be a viable desperation flex option? I mean, you can see, I do have him ranked. You can see where I have him ranked. I would say the best way I can phrase it with Boston Scott is what Jake Seeley and I said on the podcast this week, which was just imagine it's Darren Sproles, and we all have a very long history of considering Darren Sproles in fantasy leagues. And the way Darren Sproles went in the latter parts of his career, we're talking about latter day, not Saints Darren Sproles, but the last 7 or 8 years of Darren Sproles. What Darren Sproles has always done to us is like the great game when he's on the bench and the terrible game when he's not on the bench, fantasy-wise, because there's just no floor for the workload. There's no floor. 0 touches is the floor. And we saw 2 weeks ago, Miles Sanders get dehydrated, not play very well. Boston Scott comes in, basically rescues the team. We saw last week, Miles Sanders goes bananas, Boston Scott total afterthought. You'd have to be desperate, but he is ranked. You can see where I have him ranked. It's going to be low among running backs. There's a chance he gets some work, but I think of him like you think of Darren Sproles, which is it was never fun to use him. There's a big play out there, but the workload floor is nothing. Let's see. Should I start Diggs or Landry, says Backwoods North. Go to the webpage, go to harrisfootball.com, look at the rank. Jake says, who has more upside between Terry McLaurin or Anthony Miller? Probably Terry McLaurin. Probably in any given week, Terry McLaurin does because he's the fast guy and Anthony Miller is the slot guy. Anthony Miller has the safer floor, almost certainly. And Anthony Miller is clearly, in some game scripts, shown he has some pretty good upside too. But let's remember the Cowboy game when the Bears had a lead. Wasn't very good. He scored a touchdown, thankfully, because I think he had 3 catches. He's an ancillary Mitch Trubisky weapon, and it gives him, there's a world where he doesn't get used all that much. He'll get used some. He'll get used something. But McLaurin's the one who has the chance to make the spectacular play downfield to run through an entire defense. He's the sort of elite athlete. He's the one with the upside. Doesn't mean he scores more points. God knows it's Dwayne Haskins, but yes. You can ask me a flex question, Bobby. If you just ask me 3 running backs, I'm just going to say go to the running back ranks. Please do. Let's see. So Tyler says Marquise Brown or Jared Cook. Again, I'll just say, I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't have any more information than you do about the kinds of players these guys are. If you're comparing Jared Cook to Marquise Brown, you know what they are as players, right? You know that Marquise Brown is the fast guy, the quick guy, the downfield guy. There's a chance he makes one play, and he looks so awesome when he makes the one play. But there's also a chance the Ravens flat out don't need to ever throw to a wide receiver, and he has one catch for 7 yards. And Jared Cook is a little steadier, has a chance to score a touchdown, is likely to get, 5, 6, 7 targets, but probably not that far downfield. Maybe he breaks one down the seam for a touchdown, but he's got the safer floor, and Marquise Brown has the higher ceiling. I think you have to ask yourself, yeah, sure, it's a fair consideration to consider them in the same neighborhood. You have to decide, do you need upside given your lineup, given your opponent? Do you need safety given your upside, given your lineup, given your opponent? That's the decision. Bobby says, Higbee or Hollister? Bobby, they're both tight ends. I can't help you out, bud. You're going to have to just go to harrisfootball.com. Look at the tight end ranks. You've got my answer. I don't have them memorized. You'd just be watching me go to a web page. That's not great TV. Let's see. Brett says, hey, Chris, question about Mark Ingram. Are you worried about Baltimore not playing or limiting their starters if New England loses on Saturday? I am not. Week 17, yes, but not in week 16. Again, people come in and out. We got a couple hundred people watching right now. I've given a giant long speech about the freaking out over things that we can't control and that aren't likely to happen. Play your players, play your guys. You got to play your guys. Mark Ingram's going to play enough, fine. Unless the Ravens come out and announce our players are going to not play for the second half of this game, in which case you're going to have a decision to make. But I'd say, generally speaking, don't overthink much of anything this week. I think I know myself. I can sleep better, just in general. I sleep better if I lose a game in which I didn't get too cute. I got beaten with the guys that got me here, that were the right. It's the same way about poker. If I have a bad beat, someone just pulls out a heart at the very end, I go, listen, I played it right. What am I supposed to do? I don't freak out. I play poker, and I'm with other people who flip the table over, who get really, really mad. How could you do that? How could you make that bet? That's a stupid bet by you. I usually don't do that. I'm usually like, oh, yeah, wow, okay, bad luck by me. Like, I feel better playing the right way, and then if it doesn't work out for me, I'm able to sleep better than if I go, I've got a concern that Mark Ingram's going to sit. DeAndre Washington, get on in there. And then Ingram has 3 touchdowns. That I cannot abide. I will flip over tables if that happens. Let me say thanks to the sponsor. This is the last of these live streams. And this is a fun sponsor to have on here. It's BetDSI. So what I'm going to ask you is, what is your favorite point spread bet of the weekend for the NFL? So in the comments, I'll scroll down. I'll find your favorite one. What would be my favorite one? This is the kind of thing that I should probably have an answer ready for before I wrote down a couple. I've made my wagers on BetDSI. I will say I like, I kind of like the Browns getting 10. When I bet it was Browns plus 10. I mean, I know they're probably going to get blown out, but still, they're not a terrible team. Getting 10 points at home, it just feels like there's a lot of ways to lose by a touchdown. So I kind of like the Browns plus 10. I think I like the Eagles getting. Is it a field goal now or is it 2? I think I have it at 2.5. Getting 2.5 at home, I kind of like that. I like Washington. I like Washington minus 2.5. They've been playing pretty well. Those are probably the 3 that stand out to me just on quickly reviewing my own wagers, where I go, yeah, it feels like I like Washington by more than a field goal. I think I do. I play at betdsi.com. We're going to talk a lot more about handicapping on the podcast in January. We're going to give our point spread picks all throughout January, throughout the playoffs. That's really fun. Jim McCormick comes on and we rag on each other. So if you're looking for a place to play, betdsi.com, that's where I play. I've been playing there for 5 years. We actually have 2 promo codes for you, and I want to explain the difference between them if you're thinking of opening an account. We're a place where you get to make some bets at betdsi.com. If you're going to do it like regularly, if you're going to keep doing it all next year, if you're just sort of going to keep the account open and bet a lot, then use our promo code HarrisTube, because they will match 100% of your deposit. You put in $100, you get to play with $200. But if you're not going to do that, if you're just, I'll do it for the playoffs and then probably cash out, do not use HarrisTube. Use HarrisTube 5, because then they'll match 5% of your deposit, but they won't, because you You can't put in $100 and then make one bet and say, give me my $200, please. Like, that's not the way it works, right? You have to, you can't, yeah. So they'll match 5% of your deposit with Harris Tube 5, but then there's a lot less requirements that you have to play and play and play and play to be able to make all that money your own. With Harris Tube 5, it's much lower requirement. So BetDSI is where I play. They're a great sponsor. Been sponsored for 5 years. I have the account. I can show you my account right now. It's been a good year for me. So I'm going to look at your predictions. Look at your point spread feelings. We got Eagles. Hero also likes Eagles. Eagles getting 2.5. He thinks Eagles are going to win by 10. So you actually might like the money line in that particular case. Do I have someone else up here said they also liked Washington? Yep, I'm on Washington. Let's see. I don't think anybody else has said. All right, well, we don't have a lot of point spread bettors here? How about over-unders? You like over-under? I don't play a lot of over-unders. But, yeah, maybe that Cowboy-Eagle game might be under. I might feel a little bit like that. But anyway, if you're interested, betdsi.com. Use the promo codes either HarrisTube or HarrisTube5 as I described them. We thank them for sponsoring. Let's see. Thoughts on Kelvin Harmon? I don't even know who Thomas is, or Hakeem Butler as potential dynasty stat. I mean, they need to play before I can tell you whether they're good dynasty players. Sorry, I haven't seen them play yet. It's probably not going to be useful for me to weigh in. Lane says his favorite is the under in the Miami game due to weather. Okay, Lane, that could work out. BetDSI, I think I'll try it out. Okay, Hero, cool. What else do we got here? John says, a 2020 question. Lamar Jackson or Christian McCaffrey, who's the better keeper for next year? I lose the draft pick where I selected them, McCaffrey in the first, Lamar in the 9th. So I'm glad you specified that, John, because in my overall ranks, McCaffrey will be quite a bit higher than Lamar Jackson, because quarterbacks shouldn't be taken in the first round, even Lamar Jackson. And Lamar Jackson, as it stands right now, will go in the top 5 of every draft next year. And that's partly because probably some of the games will make the mistake they did with Michael Vick and assume it will ever be thus, and it will not ever be thus. Lamar Jackson's really good. It's never going to be this good again, is my prediction, because it's how things go. I said the same thing about Patrick Mahomes all summer, and then Mahomes had a big week 1. And it's funny, I bet there are even some people in the chat room right now who are like, see, told ya, it's always going to be like this for Mahomes. Ha, 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 what an idiot you are. I haven't heard back from maybe nobody in here, but heard that a lot. Haven't heard back from those people. Those people have not tweeted back to say, you know what, Harris, you were right. You know what? It usually 50 touchdowns doesn't recur. Interesting. Huh. I can't believe that. And that's the way it is with Jackson. As good as he is, and he will be the QB1 for me next year, I think, depending on how the rest of the year goes, he's not going to be a first-round pick for me. However, that's not the question you asked. You said McCaffrey in the 1st or Jackson in the 9th. That gets a lot more complicated, and I might say Jackson in the 9th. It's hard for me to give up on the winning player at the most important position. I want to see how you don't have to make this decision yet. So I want to see how the offseason goes. Who's the quarterback? Who's the coach? What's the depth chart look like? Do they draft a running back in Carolina? Like, I want to know some stuff. I mean, I could talk myself into either one, to be honest. And if you're going to have the first pick and you'd be able to throw McCaffrey back and just get him, then awesome. Let's do Lamar Jackson. But other than that, if you're picking towards the back end of the first round, I might just want the winning player at the best position, and McCaffrey has been the winning player as of right now. As skeptical as I am that this is a long career because he's a little guy, and it takes a lot of punishment to lead the league in offensive snaps among running backs 2 years in a row is crazy. I think Carolina has done him a disservice for his career. We're going to look back on Christian McCaffrey and be like, that was a comet that streaked across the sky. But he's been great. Can't argue that he hasn't been great, for sure. Let's see. Oh, Ian Thomas. Got it. Sorry, Ian Thomas. We haven't seen Kelvin Harmon play. We haven't seen Hakeem Butler play. So it's just impossible for me to tell you what they are. I don't know. Haven't seen him play. Kelvin Harmon's been out there a little bit. Hakeem Butler's been out there none. But there's no way to know. I mean, you got to get the ball first. Ian Thomas is interesting. Ian Thomas is, hopefully Greg Olsen goes away. Ian Thomas is interesting, but probably not so interesting that you won't be able to get him at a pretty decent, I don't think Ian Thomas, because Greg Olsen retires, Ian Thomas is suddenly going to be tight end 4. He's still going to be cheap. So I have an opinion on Ian Thomas. I think he's a pretty good prospect, but hasn't proven anything, and who's the quarterback and who's the coach and blah, blah, blah. And the other 2 guys I just don't have an opinion on yet. Let's see. Devontae Yunkin says, Devontae Adams or Mike Boone if Madison is out. I'm still going to use Adams. I'm probably not going to get so cute with Mike Boone because I don't think he's great. I think he'd be in a really good situation, but there's a world where he does nothing. There's a world where Amir Abdullah scores 9 touchdowns. Devontae Adams is just so rock solid most of the time that I would be. It's a good question. I think I would not consider him in the same neighborhood. Brian 74-ish. He loves me, and then he asks Perriman or Cup. Brian, just go to the website, harrisfootball.com. Just go there right now. That's all you have to do. I swear to God, the answer's there. You can go look and see what my ranks are. I don't know. The answer is I don't know how I rank them. I spend 5 hours every Tuesday making an Excel spreadsheet, agonizing, looking at numbers, looking at everything, looking at matchups and all that stuff, and then I make the ranks. And those guys are probably pretty close, but you need to just go to the website. That's going to be my answer. Let's see. Bruce said, turned a free $25 bonus at BetDSI to $125 this year, made watching even more fun. I agree. That's why I do it. I don't bet much, but I do like it. Mo Doey says, should I flex Kaiser Soze, Rashad Perriman, or Adrian Peterson? I mean, I think they're in the same neighborhood, and I think you probably know those players as well as I do at this point. I mean, Rashad Perriman, we're entirely interested in him because of the situation, right? We're entirely interested in him because no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. Who else is there? And the who else is there argument is terrible in the long term. In the summer, I hate that argument. But in a one-game, gotta win it, gotta have it situation, I totally get it. I totally get it. But he's got ridiculous floor, Rashad Perriman. He could drop 3 passes and get benched. I don't think he's good, right? So I think you need to look at your lineup and say, well, Adrian Peterson, I feel pretty much locked in. He's going to have 15 touches and he's going to have 55 yards-ish. And then let's see if he gets a touchdown. So I'm kind of right down the middle with him. And Rashad Perriman's going to be all over the map. There's going to be huge upside. And if you need upside, play Perriman. But it's obviously way more risky than using Adrian Peterson. It just is because he's not very good. We're relying on a situation there. So I think you have to make that call. Jeff says, is Saquon going to fall in your 2020 ranks? Well, thanks for watching the YouTube channels, Jeff. There's a video of the top 10 running backs, and Saquon's listed number 1. I recommend you watch that video because it's super entertaining. But no, the answer is as of right now, he's still my number 1 running back. I think this is about injury. Frames says, hey, Todd Gurley or Adam Thielen in PPR. And my reaction to that is, again, what I'm trying to establish is, hey, you know what these players are. You know what you're smart enough to know what this is about. You know that Todd Gurley has a shaky offensive line and has had moments of not being so good, but he's found his way into the end zone some, and it's a hard matchup against the 49ers. And then you've got the information on Adam Thielen having only come back from his hamstring last week and having done nothing. I think you know what the risk factors are. They both have a lot of risk. You know what the upside is. They both have a lot of upside. The best I can probably tell you is you're making a fine, fair comparison. They probably are about in the same neighborhood, and you know that Gurley has probably going to touch the ball more times than Thielen, but you know that Thielen is a really great red zone weapon when he's healthy. I don't know if he's healthy. So you have all the info you need to make that call. I think it's fair comparison. They're in the same neighborhood, and you should figure out what your lineup needs as far as the risk and the reward. Let's see. Roonen, who I keep messing up your username, I apologize for that. The punishment for our regular season last place is the SATs. You have to take the SATs again, I guess. Who would do better on the test if the higher score gets the yacht between you and the possum? I'm pretty sure I would get the higher score. I'm pretty good at that kind of thing. And the possum has a GED equivalent, which, he's smart. He's smart in his way. But I think I hear him. Yeah, I hear him laughing in there. That's not cool. Ben asks a question that I've already answered, but you're here. Probably didn't hear me. If New England loses Saturday afternoon, do the Ravens bench their starters on Sunday? I don't know, Ben. You know every single bit as much as I do. What do you think? I'll wait and listen. I'll hang up and listen. We don't have any way of knowing that. I don't know how you think I know that they're going to bench their guys. Like, I'm not in the Ravens brass. I'm not in the coaching room. You're asking me a question that I can't possibly know the answer to. I think that we do ourselves a disservice when we get too clever. I think if the Ravens announce they're going to do it, then we know, and then we react about it. And if they don't, I'm usually just going to play my Ravens. But if you don't feel comfortable doing it, this to me, I'll give the methodology one more time here at the very end. I think of it like poker. You get a hand, there's a book, right? There's a book that says play your ace 10 this way when there's this betting where there's this, right? And book, generally speaking, is designed to make you win more times than any other strategy. But if you just have a feeling that you don't want to play Mark Ingram and you'd rather play DeAndre Washington, and you just want to follow that feeling, like sometimes you have 2-5 unsuited and you play it and it works out for you, I can't say that's wrong. It's your team. I really can't. Book to me says you don't worry about stuff like that, but I don't know any more information than you do. And that's the case with all playing time stuff. It's not just a matter of somebody being benched, right? Or rather somebody resting their players. It can be, is Adam Thielen going to play all the snaps finally this time? Like, tell me, fart face, I need to know. I don't know. I don't know any more than you do about it. Is DeAndre Washington going to get the job that he had 2 weeks ago and get it right back again? I don't know. I don't have any way of knowing that any more than you do. All this playing time stuff based on injury, based on Dak's shoulder. Should I sit Amari Cooper because of Dak's shoulder? Like, I don't know. I have no more information than you do. It's going to come down to your own risk tolerance, but also I think there's just a tendency to way, way, way overthink these things. And, I think you're better off probably not overthinking strategy that got you to your championship game. However, that's book, and book is not always right. How many times, Ben, have you been playing cards and you've had the best hand and you're like, well, I'm good here. And then some dummy draws a 4 at the very end. You're like, it happens, obviously. But my feeling is you play book, but I'm comfortable with the idea that says it's your team and you should play it the way will make you happiest and lose the least sleep. Let's see. Jarl says, is Mike Boone, if there's no Alexander Madison, will Mike Boone get as high in your ranks as Aaron Jones? The answer will be no. I promise I will update those ranks on harrisfootball.com, but no, I would not view them in the same neighborhood. I would be using Aaron Jones. Rick says, thoughts on the Le'Veon Bell revenge narrative this week? I think you asked it that way because you're familiar with my oeuvre, with my work. You could have a revenge narrative, like the Ricky Seals-Jones revenge narrative, scoring 2 touchdowns against the Cardinals last week. There's too many, like the Mohamed Sanu revenge narrative against the Bengals. That one didn't work out, but the Rex Burkhead revenge narrative did. There's no such thing as revenge narrative. It's something that, pardon me, but like our less intelligent NFL media members like to harp on, because there's how many in any given week, how many X players face their X teams? Is it 30? And then you get or maybe more, and then you get the one of them that explodes and they go, oh, see, revenge game. Of course he was always going to be like, that's not the way it works. It's not how these players think. That's not how they play. Le'Veon Bell hasn't been like not trying, and now he's going to try. He could have a great game. He's a good player, but it's not going to be because of revenge. I promise. Shelton has a good question. Should I be trusting DJ Moore even with his new quarterback in Carolina? Because it's Will Grier. Well, you know exactly as much about Will Grier as an NFL player as I do. It injects less certainty for sure. And I guess if you were asking about Curtis Samuel, maybe I'd go, boy, okay, if it's a tiebreaker between Curtis Samuel and a lot of other of those kind of similar seeming high upside, terrible downside wide receiver 3 types, and maybe Will Grier gets injected into it, and now it's a, sort of one little tiebreaker. I think I'm more amenable to that rather than DJ Moore, this really good player who's really, just has played very, very well and has been very difficult to cover and certainly can get open shallow if the plan is to check down a lot. Like, to me, Moore is probably high enough on the receiver list that I probably wouldn't get cute, but it is one extra variable that you don't love. That is for sure. Let's see. Jacob says, what do you think about Christian Kirk this week? I think about him we all think about him every week, which is it's not a very aggressive passing offense in Arizona. I hope in the future it becomes less horizontal, a little more vertical. It seems like the only deep shot that gets taken is the one where the player's just super, super wide open, and sometimes that's Kirk, but sometimes it's some doofus that we're definitely not starting. And Christian Kirk's really good, but he belongs in that wide receiver 3. It's frustrating, and I don't really know what's going to happen in any given week. I don't fear the matchup against Seattle. You can look in the wide receiver ranks, and you can see exactly where I have him ranked at harrisfootball.com. Let's see. Carrie says, smash cut to some Panther beat reporter story about how Curtis Samuel and Will Grier have this great bond. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny. It's a funny comment no matter what. It's funny whether it's actually happened already or not, right? Like, that's another one, the great bond between backup players. It's another one where you go, what are we talking about here? How many times do we have to have that debunked? And then some dumb announcer, then Booger McFarland goes, I got 5 brain cells. 2 of them are devoted to knowing that James Washington and Mason Rudolph went to college together. So I'm going to say that out loud, and how whatever, it's just the state of the NFL media isn't good. State of fantasy media is way better than the state of the NFL media, even though, there's different methodologies in the fantasy media, but there's a lot more better faith, I think. I just think there's a lot of bad faith, stupid takes in the NFL media. Smash cut to Booger saying something goofy. All right, we're in the last few minutes here. I've got the guitar here. Blaine asks a question, third time's a charm. Who would you bet on to have the best career at this point? DK Metcalf, A.J. Brown, or Terry McLaurin? That is a good question. I think I might agree with Ben and say TM. I might agree with Ben and say Terry McLaurin. I'm impressed. I did film futures on him on the podcast, and there's so many variables with all these guys because who's going to be thrown to him, blah blah blah. Like who's the coach in Washington? They're not going to have the same coach. But McLaurin's got that interesting phylum potential to him that certainly Metcalf doesn't have, and the kind of play like AJ Brown feels safe to me right now. Like he's established himself as a future sort of really interesting big possession style, red zone style Michael Crabtree part. But the idea that McLaurin could be Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown feels at least I'll say I'm not sure I bet that I'm positive it's going to work out that way for McLaurin, but I think he's the highest upside career-wise. Shelton says, I've heard some analysts say that the 49er defense is no longer as big a threat with recent injuries. What are your thoughts on this? They're still good. They're still really good. They definitely struggled against Julio last week, but that's no sin, right? And I don't even know who is supposed to be. Richard Sherman's supposed to come back. Like, who's the real – here's the thing about the 49er defense. I never really bought it as like a mega historical elite. Oh, my God. I mean, if you can't watch a 49er game, and they're all going to call it that because they're dumb, right? But – I think that front four, that I don't want to call it front four, like they'll run a bunch of things. The defensive front is legit great, one of the best in the league. Bosa's wrecking people. Like it's a great defensive front. And the back end is, who are the linebackers? You tell me. Like the back end is fine. I don't think it's special. And they did struggle with Julio. And I don't consider them like a total hands off and you can't possibly ever use any Ram this week. Not at all. Maybe what you're saying is that the fantasy community is catching up to my position on them. Let's see. Do we have other interesting questions? Should I play you a song? What song should I play? I don't know. Does anybody know this song? You're not going to know this song. You're all 10 years old. How does it go? Yeah. Anybody got that? What that is? No, you're all 10 years old. That's like a early 2000s song, I think. That's like 2004, 3, something like that. Rilo Kiley? No, anybody? You're probably behind me also in the thing. What do I know how to play that I haven't played for you on this thing already? Have I played? I don't remember. Have I played that for you? Baby. Britney Spears. Play Freebird. That was Blackbird, correct. Kylo Ren. Spencer says Kylo Ren was Rilo Kiley. Dave Piper just texted me. He doesn't even remember that I'm on a live stream right now. He is watching me. Dave Piper's watching me. Dave Piper, come in this room and say something before I go, because I have to talk to you on the phone here momentarily. But I first want to see Dave Piper type something. There's Dave Piper. There he is. Hey, YouTube fam, says Dave Piper. He's got the little wrench next to his name. It's me, says Dave Piper. Yes, Shelton, you can buy this t-shirt at harrisfootball.com. You can indeed. It's me building things, says Dave Piper. How about Free Fallin'? You guys know Free Fallin', right? Easiest song in the world to play. There's just like you never have to move your hand. It's nice. I like it. How about... R.I.P. Wieland! Yeah, baby. STP, indeed. All right, kids. This has been fun. It's been fun. Basically, just an excuse to play guitar for you all season long. But we've done a live stream every day for 4 months. Every week for 4 months. Thank you very much for all your support. Subscribe to the channel, really. There's like 200 of you right now watching. It would be great if one last little favor, if you're not already subscribing, please subscribe to the channel. This video gets pumped up more. The channel gets pumped up more. If a whole bunch of people subscribe right now, just hit the subscribe button on your way out. It would really, really, really help us out a lot. We are going to continue to make content in the off season this year. We didn't last year. We are this year. That's what Dave Piper and I are about to talk about. So please do subscribe and then keep checking in. I think you're going to get to hear Piper and Hewitt's voices on the channel in the off season, so that'll be fun. keep petty. I agree. So thanks, everybody. It's been really fun. Go win your games. If you're a person of the book, then I'll be doing a live stream on Sunday morning as well before kickoff. Great fun, and keep listening to the podcast all winter, too. I'll keep up with the podcast once a week as well. We'll see ya. Bye-bye. Thank you.